Awesome. Well, hopefully we're live and jump in the chat and let us know if we're not. Um, Today is a pretty special event. So first we'll be showing off some of our newest technology and things we're working on. But as some of you probably figured out, our special guest is Carl. He just happens to be my dad, but he's the CTO of Muzie and is really the brains behind everything that we actually do. I tell him what to do, and then that's where it actually gets built. So I figured it'd be a good time for us to both come on and be able to talk about this, because AI is a little bit outside of my knowledge base. So I think it's probably appropriate to have Carl kind of talk through what AI is and isn't, how we're using it, and the applications, sort of as far as it's intended for music and education purposes. So yeah, I guess you get to say hi to everybody for the first time.
Hi everyone. Yeah, nice to be here. This is a fun event. Yeah, as Sam said, I get to do things he tells me to do, which is sort of the reverse of what typically parents and sons get to do. But hey, it's actually it's a lot of fun. So yeah, specifically we're going to talk about AI and how we as an organization are going to start using it. I mean, you've probably heard the term AI bandied around, especially recently. It's not a new term. I mean, AI has been in computer science as a term for, well, actually since 1956, actually. It was the first time it was ever coined at a conference in New Hampshire, of all places. So, even back in the day, we were talking about artificial intelligence and, when will computers start to gain the level of intelligence where they can actually do things useful. And that sort of, I think, categorizes where we're at, because computers have been doing useful things since the beginning, certainly over the past, 20, 40 years. Just getting more and more powerful, typically with faster and faster processors, more memory, smaller devices. I'm sure everybody's got a cell phone that has got more processing power than the Moonlander had. Yeah, and it's pretty wild to imagine that. Just recently, though, artificial intelligence has become an interesting term, because it's only within the past few months, I'd say since December, when AI has become almost a buzzword that has sort of engaged the consumer consciousness. And this was done through this, you've probably heard about this thing called Chat GPT. And if you haven't, it's actually an interesting tool to play with. So prior to that, AI was a sort of concept that was really bandied around in terms of, it's going to be a long time before we can actually have human level intelligence in computers, and it's probably going to take another 50, 100 years. And I would argue that probably up until 5 years ago, that was probably still true. Mostly, even AI researchers were effectively saying the same thing. Just recently, though, these things called GPT, which is something called a large language model. You don't need to know the details, but effectively it's a computer system that is trained on a massive amount of data, trillions of items of data. And what has happened is, once this occurred, there was this emergent capability that seemed to appear almost out of nowhere. And the weird thing is that a lot of how it works isn't really thoroughly understood. The cool thing about it, though, is that there is a degree of intelligence there, and intelligence is one of those things that you've got to be careful about how you define it. And there are specific ways of defining intelligence, including things like reasoning and planning and problem solving and abstraction and what have you. Some of those things, these language models can't yet do, specifically things like forward planning. But reasoning, they definitely can. And some of the things that are really fascinating is that you can ask questions and get really intelligent responses. So one of the things that we started thinking about was, hey, how could we use this in the context of music education? Because that's really what we're here for. And it became really interesting when you start asking questions and get very specific responses that actually contextually make sense.
Yeah.
So as Sam will demonstrate in a short while, one of the things that we've started thinking about is how to make life easier for a music educator. Because there's a lot of stuff that you have to do on a day-to-day basis. Things like lesson planning, lesson notes, assignments, and a lot of that can be tedious, and very repetitive, but also very specific to individual students. So it's sort of interesting for us to think about, okay, what can we do to try and make life better, easier, using our infrastructure, our tools, for everybody, and how can we leverage things like AI to help? So that's some of the stuff we've been working on. So that's a sort of quick, fast intros to some of the great things we're doing, and a lot of fun.
And I think it's also really important to sort of distinguish, these are large language models. That thing is, one important thing is, it's like you said, it's trained on trillions of points of data, and it does have some kind of reasoning capabilities that will show, and it's an interesting thing. But this is very still far away from any of the TV adaptations of what people portray AI as. That stuff is still and will always be sci-fi. So the one thing, just to be clear, that the botnets, or whatever, in Terminator and everything, Skynet and everything, that's not what this stuff is doing. The way I think of this stuff is not as, oh, this could take your job one day. It is, watch how well
augmentation
this help you do your job. This is going to make you so much better at what you do. Like, even in Muzie, as a small company, we all wear 5 hats. So things we've been using AI as a business for the last 4 or 5 months for everything. Every Facebook post, every email, every written thing that has been communicated out, and everyone already knows this, is that it's all run through an AI to make sure that it's spelled correctly, that the grammar's there. Sometimes it even adds little things that we might have forgotten about. And so those are the kinds of things where, without just specifically what we're doing, this technology is really there for a productivity purpose. And that's the angle that we're taking to this, is how can this help you, be more productive? So let's check it out. So the first thing that we thought about with this is our most popular feature, and I think everyone knows, is the assignment tool. It's quickly become sort of the thing that everyone uses. And I think that's because it works inside for private lessons, online lessons, group lessons. Doesn't matter. Assignments are for everyone. So the way we've decided to sort of approach this is in a sort of 2 or 3 step process. So can everyone see that screen? We'll see. So basically, the idea that we have here is that when you're in a lesson, regardless of online or in person, there's 3 things that can occur. The AI can do voice to text, which is basically transcribing anything you say or do in the lesson, as far as talking to your student. Then from there, the AI can take what you've said and it can turn it into something useful. So we'll demonstrate this. So we've got our assignment. And so, for example, in this lesson, I want everyone to be working on major scales. We're going to make sure that we focus on C major, 2 octaves, play these nice and slowly, and use your metronome. Make sure you only go up 10 beats per minute every time you played the scale correctly. And then once you've done that, you can move on to your minor chords. After you've done minor chords for about 20 minutes, you can then move on to songwriting. You should try write part 1 and part 2 of your song. And when you're done, you can record a clip and send that to me whenever you're ready. So as you can see, everything I just said was transcribed in real time. So that can happen while you're just talking to your students. You don't need to be so direct, which is pretty cool. The AI understands context and content. So you can be talking to someone. You don't have to be like, students should do this, students should do that. You can just say like, hey, Carl, I want you to work on this next week, and I want you to remember to do these things, and remember, just like you would normally in a normal lesson. Don't change anything about how you talk or anything like that. Don't worry too much about spelling mistakes inside the transcription, but if entire words or phrases are wrong, you might want to just quickly make sure those are corrected. And it's fully editable. It's just a text document at this point. Now, where this really becomes a special thing is when we hit AI magic. So this is where you are given your select prompts. This is something that we're continually working on. So these are just the ones we've started with, and these will continually adapt and evolve. And hopefully one day there's a big long list of different useful things. But as you can see, there's sort of different ways you can apply this information. So we could make a 3-day practice routine. We could make a 7-day practice routine, an assignment, a quiz, a summary, anything you want. So let's just start with 3-day, and we just hit abracadabra. What this is going to do is take everything that we talked about in that transcript to the student, and it's going to write it as a 3-day workout, a 3-day practice routine. And this system is trained, or hate to use the word understands, but I mean, we're kind of getting there. It understands that it's music lessons. It understands this is an assignment for a music student. It's not going to spit out a math assignment or any, or French homework or something. It understands the context and can kind of extrapolate from there, just like you would when you're writing out your own assignments. So as you can see, it even gives suggestions, things like once you've reached comfortable speeds, take a break and review what you've learned. Even thing, and it gets everything we said, like make sure you practice your scales, keep your metronome there so you're on track, only move up by 10 beats per minute. And it's broken it down so that each day we're working on a different topic. And this, to me, I mean, that's an actionable 3-day practice routine right there in one click of a button. Now, all you need to do is click save, and that is now a part of the assignment. And your student, has instant access to that. And from there on, they can do whatever they want. Now, a couple of things. So let's say that wasn't right, or you're like, yeah, maybe 3 days isn't really what I was looking for. You can pick something else. So maybe you just want assignment. Assignment is kind of cool because it gives an exercise, tip, and tricks and objectives. It's a little bit more sort of broken down. So you have the objective of learning the scales, the minor chords, and the songwriting. And then we have the different exercises that we need to work on. And maybe that's not good enough. So you can try again, and the AI will write a new assignment for you. And there's all these different parameters that we've put in to make sure that it doesn't just write the same assignment for you over and over again. It will, take the information and try to build it out in a new way. And as you can see, this is a much, much more in-depth assignment. There's tips, there's techniques, there's ideas the students can use. And, some of this stuff you never said, but it's taken the context because we told it to work on minor chords and scales. So it's saying here that why don't you experiment with different chord progressions and when you're playing the minor chords. So you can see that this has the ability for your student to actually use this. It's functional right out of the gate. It's pretty cool. And then like anything, of course, it can be edited as needed. And then there are some things that I'll show off, like the AI is not so good at yet. And these are things we're working on.
Sam, one of the other things that's worth just mentioning here is that when you write your initial assignment, you can also be instrument specific.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Okay.
So check. Yeah. So like if I put in here, that's a good point. So if we mention specific details, like put it as a guitar lesson, we want 30 minutes a day, and things like that. It will take that context and it will extrapolate again. So now when we go back into assignment, it can actually pull out relevant things. So sometimes you'll see in the tips and the tricks section, if it knows it's a guitar, it will suggest alternate picking, or if it knows it's a piano, it might suggest using both hands, or it can pull from the instrument that you put in, and it will sort of put that information into the assignment. Now, because this is an AI and not a traditional algorithm, the answers that you get back are not as predictable. And that can be good, that can be bad. This is sort of the learning process part. And this is where everybody will come in, as far as letting us know what prompts are working and which ones create useful assignments and which ones don't. That's sort of the things we'll learn as we go. But as you see, you can get a lot of context pulled out of a pretty quick little blurb. And to just show sort of some of it, like if we strip down the instructions and we just quickly give some bullet points, like work on songs 1, 2, 3, work on pages 2, 3, and 4, and play guitar 30 minutes a day. So just really scrappy assignments. Obviously, that's nothing you would ever give to a student. But just to sort of show, it can kind of extrapolate more from what it's being provided. So that way, if you're kind of in a rush, you can just quickly jot down some notes. And as you saw there, I am able to type in my assignments still. I don't have to do the voice to text stuff. That's just for convenience sake. So if you want to have the convenience of just saying it and then having it created, that's awesome. But if you're a fast typer or that's what you're used to, that's still no problem at all. So as you see down here, this is extrapolated a ton of information from our tiny little prompt. So this is our short little 3-line prompt. And now you have a massive information that you can work with. Some of this won't be useful to you. Some of it might be too much, too little. But that's where your teaching skills kick back in. And it's at your discretion to sort of share and edit and go from there. Now, one other thing that this can do, and this sort of alludes to it as well, is upscaling old assignments. So this is sort of a neat side effect of the system itself. Let's see if one of these is any good. Try this one. Maybe fun stuff. Nope. Okay, so I'll just make one real quick. So any old assignment that you have, kind of like what I was just showing, it could be work on the worksheets, pages 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. And this context could have been here forever. So we can leave the assignment, go back into it. And then if we're working on the assignment or whatever it is here, we can then just AI magic whatever's already in there. So you might have assignments that you've been doing for the last 2 or 3 years that were either just short and sweet because you didn't have time to elaborate on them, or it's things that maybe you were going to get back to later. Now you can just put it in here and then sort of tell it what you want it to be. Short assignments are kind of neat because those are just really quick bullet point lists. So if you want something that is just really simple and to the point, that's this kind of thing. So there's a whole bunch of different options, as you can see, so you can format it however you like. But that's sort of just one of the side benefits to the system is you can take old assignments and basically upscale them. So let me just stop there for a second. I'll jump back this way. If there's any questions, it says that everyone says the screen share was blurry. I don't know why the screen share was blurry. Did nobody see anything I was just doing? Wonderful.
Just try resharing it. See if that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to share it.
That is strange.
Okay.
Should have had the Q&A open.
Yeah, let me check. So here. Is that still blurry?
Yeah, that's much better. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone jump in the comments. Let me know if that's seeable.
Yeah. 2 comments saying yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So without going through the whole thing again, maybe just pop something up and
do a real quick
demo. Yeah, quick run through.
So basically, for anyone who knows the assignments tool, so that's where we were the whole time. We were just inside an assignment here. So the idea is that for the assignment, you could have either text to speech, which up here there's a record button, and anything I say is going to be transcribed in real time. So I want my student to work on major scales, minor scales, songwriting, and alternate picking, and they should practice for 30 minutes a day. And when I stop, everything I say is transcribed in real time, right as we saw, so I can just edit that as needed. And then you can take those simple instructions, hit AI magic, and then select what you want that to do. So if you want that to be a 3-day practice routine, you just hit abracadabra, and then all of a sudden the AI will take the context and extrapolate from there and turn that into a routine. So as you see, you've got your 3 days and everything, and then you just click save, and then that adds it to the assignment. So that's basically the function of what I was talking about. So
there's a question in relation to where are we pulling this data from. So it's actually the same environment as ChatGPT, which is a huge, vast reservoir of knowledge. So it is a service. Now, there are two things on that. One of them is what we've done is to leverage that in a very specific way by being very specific about how we use it. So we're not using it in the same way as ChatGPT itself, which is a just ask a general question and you get some response.
Actually, one thing to verify real quick is the difference between GPT and like Chat GPT. Portion is like that's a product. So Chat GPT is the name of a thing you buy. Like muzie is the name of our software. GPT is the technology back that's kind of in the back end, and that's the stuff that everyone else can kind of access. So
for those who I'm sure are really interested, GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So you don't need to ask anymore. There's another question.
Yeah, Susan's question. Yes, you can stop and start those recordings as you go. So the idea isn't. I mean, you could, if you wanted to, just hit record and kind of talk through most of your lesson. It will take that, but the AI does have a limit to how much it can read. So it's about a couple thousand characters, which when I tested, it's about 5 or 10 minutes of speaking during a lesson. It kind of like clips. That's really you kind of only want to record the useful stuff. If you record yourself just bantering with your student, it will include that it will think that it's not so smart that it understands that was banter and this is homework. It might think that if you were telling them, oh, you should go check out that movie, it'll probably put that in the assignment as like, go check out that movie or something. So you do want to be as specific as possible with what actually gets fed into the system. But you can stop and start and go back to things and restart things. It's kind of continuously running.
And that's also why we've added some new tools that I think we may be showing in a short while for in the lesson. So you can pop out the assignment piece, the actual description piece in a floating window. So you can actually have that hanging around, a bit like the metronome, but a bit bigger. For this reason, so that you can actually do some dictation or transcribing in the lesson, stop, start again at some other point whilst you're doing something else in the system.
And that's what we'll show now. Is we did this last round of updates from this week are specifically geared to sort of set up for this AI and make it sort of more user friendly. So here I'll jump back to screen sharing and then let me know again if that's actually working or not. I'll just start this. I'll go into the lesson now to kind of demonstrate these next two things.
That seems clear.
Good. Okay. Oops. All right. So I probably can't get my video because I'm already on does. Okay, cool. So these are the demo lessons. So if anyone's not familiar, most teachers who've been using the platform for a while won't have seen this. But we do have dummy students now. So if you ever need to like test something out with a dummy student, you can do so. But basically the way this all works is that you can go into your tools at the beginning of the lesson, enter into your assignments. You can either open a pre-existing assignments like we did earlier, or we can just create a new one. And from here, you can then pop out this text box. So you just do that with this orange little window here. So when we click that, it'll pop the assignment out over here. We could either go to the whiteboard, or maybe we don't need the tools open right now. So we could just put this in the corner. And then, you know, as normal, you just go about teaching. So you can either type out things in here, or as you're going, you can record. So this is part 1 of the assignment. Please remember to do this. And then, you know, go do something else. 10 minutes later, you come back and be like, okay, part 2 of the assignment, I want you to focus on this, this, and this. And then, if you don't see the text immediately, when you click stop, it will just generate the text for you. But once you hit record, it is listening. So you don't have to worry about if you're not seeing it transcribed in real time. But then, unlike anything, this, you know, like we were saying before, it works the same way from here. You just click the prompt, choose what it is you want. We'll turn that into a 7-day routine, abracadabra. And then this should whip up a 7-day routine for us. And then once we've got this from here, this is already auto-saving. So once we add this into the little prompt window, so we'll just hit save, and we can just close this. You'll see at the corner it says saved right there. So whenever you're done with that, you can just get rid of it. And then if you want to go back and check on it, you can go into the assignments and you can open that assignment, and then everything that you've sort of had is already in there. So yeah, that's a really seamless sort of way of interacting with the assignments now. The other thing we have that's sort of just a new feature for everyone is this tools menu. This is just so that you don't have to keep closing the windows to get back to the other things. So if you want the metronome, you can just get it now. AV setup, piano, you know, all those kinds of things are just accessible from that menu. And then the newest tool that we have is notes. So notes are teacher specific, or well, they're student specific, but they're teacher only. So only the teacher will see the notes. You can write whatever you want in here. Your students don't have this tab, so they're not going to see anything. So when you click new, you've got a notepad right there, and you can just type away and make notes as you need. But we figured this is probably not a bad place to also put the AI. I've been hearing that Google was thinking about doing, or Zoom or someone was thinking about doing meeting notes with AIs. And I started thinking, you know, well, we've got the assignment thing. I wonder if we could do that, but on the teacher side. So basically the assignment tool and the notes are now sort of like two sides of the same idea. The assignments are the student facing, the notes are the teacher facing. So from here, just like anything, you could either record yourself talking or you can type it out. But this one has different prompts. It's obviously not going to make an assignment for you. So this is more reminders, to-do lists, things that the teacher that you need to remember for the student. So remind the families about the recital next week, email everybody the flyers, check on the student's practice progress, bring in that book for the student next week, and don't forget to email everybody. And so, you know, whatever it might be, whatever your to-do list is, you just create it like that. And as you know, if you want, that's great. You have your to-do list and you're good to go. Or again, AI magic. And this one has a couple of different sort of prompts. So I like just a simple to-do list. This will just take everything and just put it in a list. And, you know, nice and easy, you can get it done. The other thing we're working on, and these are sort of ones that we're experimenting with, are things like lesson planning. So I probably didn't give it a very good prompt for lesson planning, but we'll see what it does. This is sort of the idea of like, if you need to, you know, if you as a teacher are maybe thinking about starting a topic with a student and you just need some ideas about what to do, you can use this to sort of generate those ideas. So let me give it a better prompt. So work on major scales with this student. And that's going to be what we're working on. And that now, if I go to my lesson plan, abracadabra, it will try to sort of create like a lesson plan, a to-do list structure for the actual lesson, or things that I could think about before I get to the lesson. So, the objective is to introduce the major scale and review it. We might need some materials. I don't think you'll need a treble clef to carry one around with you. But
the other thing just to note there is that there were a few typos and condensed words and what have you. So, and that just highlights the fact that you don't have to be that precise. Now, on the other hand, the more precise you are, the more specific the response will be. So, if you want to be very specific and get a response back that meets the needs of the lesson or whatever it is that whether it's just notes or or whatever, then try and be as specific as you can, but you don't have to be. So just something to bear in mind.
Yeah, definitely. And that was sort of the point there, is like I didn't even spell student right. I just said like STD or N or something, or like it's not even a full word. So, but it knew what I meant. It was, it's like, okay, you're doing something so ask your students to identify the notes, repeat the scales in different keys, so these are just things to think about. This might not be totally right for your lesson, but if you just need a quick thing to pull out some ideas, there you go. So these are the two applications that we've got so far for the AI, but that's really the tip of the iceberg. So before we kind of go into things we're thinking about and future plans and everything, I figured this might be an interesting time to sort of ask if people have any questions about the things like that. Like the new things you could do with AI and what maybe we could add, or any features you think would be fun to have. And just to answer Natalie's question.
So on that last question there, the one about notes, student specific. If you go into, in fact, do you want to share the screen? Because lesson notes are available outside the lesson as well. And if you, for example, create a group, and you highlight, click on the group, select the group, then you can create notes for the group. So we'll see an example here.
Yeah, let me show that. So notes, as he was saying, it's like everything with Muzie, inside a class, outside a class, and whoever you click on, you will get the notes for that person. So if we click on Ray and we say, hey Ray, and that's their note, we just say, hey, okay, cool, close it. And then we go to a different student. When we go back to Ray, that's their note. So, that's sort of how that works. In a group, similar setting. So this is my group class. I can click on the group. I can create a note, group note, and then I can close that. And then that group has that note. If I leave here and I go to different students, you'll see. Now, what you are seeing here is any of this student, and that student are the students who are in this group. So if I click on them, you will see all notes associated with that student. So if they were in a group, if they were in a private lesson, if they're just notes you made in your free time, that way you just click on the student and see anything that you've ever sort of noted about them. But specifically, you can also just go to the group and you'll see that group and only their notes. Same as whiteboards, shared files, everything of that nature. The only thing this does not have is a share function. Anytime you want to make notes that the student should be seeing, that's what the assignments is for. And so even if you don't add content to the assignments, if it's just written instructions, that's fine. That's still the best place to put it. Or you could even just put it in the chat.
But that last question is an interesting one about being able to customize specific things for lesson plans, formats, and things. One of the things that you can do is, and this comes back to the point I was making earlier on about being specific. If you want a specific format, you can actually suggest that. And now I'm not going to guarantee you're going to get it exactly every time, but it's pretty good at getting it, pretty close to what you want. So again, if it's, and we're talking about formats here, so
No, I think that's
specific.
Yeah, things like even just simple things like just you can say like write this as a bulleted list and then give the information and it will just write it as a bulleted list regardless of what our prompts and back end stuff are all doing. It will just you can mostly not overwrite it because you can't get it to do things other than make music stuff. So there, even if you try to get it to make assignments, they'll just keep making assignments out of whatever you tell
And
it.
don't ask it what the current weather is either, because it won't know.
Yeah, it doesn't do that kind of stuff. It's not like you said. It's not the chat GPT. It's just it's the AI brains of something like that. So the AI is not out entirely right now. This is the first sort of showcase of it. We are slowly rolling this out though. So of the people who are here, if you would like access to this AI, either just throw a note in the chat that you'd want it, or send me an email and we can turn this on individually for you to start with. Sort of the only requirement we ask is that you give us some feedback. We need to sort of know how it's working, how you feel with it, if the responses you're getting are actually useful, or if it's just a bunch of gibberish, things like that. Please let us know. And then, so before we jump into the future stuff, because we've got billions of ideas, does anyone have any suggestions or ideas or things that maybe you thought we were going to say, or maybe, because I was pretty vague about what this was going to be about. So if anyone has any like, oh, I wish it did this, or is it possible to do that, even if it sounds outlandish, let us know, because most of the ideas that I throw around sound ridiculous, and I'm surprised half the time when they actually do work. So let us know. Yeah, we'll get everyone here access to it, so you'll get to play with it. And then we'll use this as sort of the training session, and then we'll do more demos and things, specifically on the AI. But sort of going into some of the things we're doing for the future, or some things we're playing with, just some of the ideas we've had. And this I love some feedback on, because this is where we aren't 100% sure, honestly, where, this is new territory for everybody. So basically the idea that we've got here is that we could create quizzes or the like with AI. Like I said, this isn't anything set in stone. This is just ideas we're kind of throwing around now. But one of the things we've been thinking about is that you could theoretically, on the student side, you could have a self-generating quiz, and it could be a variety of different topics, but you could do things like sight reading examples that could show up on screen. And then when the student's done, they just hit generate, and the AI would just generate a new example for them to practice. And it'd basically be like infinite variations of sort of sight reading things. You could do a similar thing, but for music theory. You could have the AI actually write a sort of a description of a topic, and then give a quiz based on the things that you're looking at and the things that you want to you want the students to learn about, and then those could be adaptive so they can sort of learn going forward. Like we said, the one thing with the AI is this is supposed to basically be the teaching assistant, not the teacher. So we don't want anything to try to step over, anyone's toes, or kind of, make anyone feel like this isn't, this is going to somehow push you out or anything. The entire purpose of this is to basically make your job easy and make things so that you can, like everything, focus back on just teaching your students and not have to worry about all of the extraneous things that sort of come with it. So, like I said, we've got millions of ideas of how we're going to use this stuff. Upload on a assignment page. Oh, that'd be kind of cool. So you can upload an assignment page template that I use, and then have the content filled in, and so almost like a readable document almost. So is that what you mean? Like you could put a PDF or something up, and then the AI could almost turn it into, like if there was a checkbox there, it could like have a checkbox. If there's a line to fill something in, you could actually fill it in. If there was a music note, that you could put it on the paper itself. That's interesting.
Tricky to do it. A PDF would be tricky, but a text document, Yeah, that would actually be interesting. Need to think about that one.
Yeah, that's interesting. Something I know what you mean. Yeah, you have a formatted page that, and then there's sort of areas they can fill in, things of that nature. That's interesting. One idea I had had, and this is again sort of in that wheelhouse of I do, and these are why we want the ideas of some of these things we don't know. We have no idea if that's possible yet. That's that's sort of the idea is that we'll have to see what's really doable. But one idea
yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's definitely possible.
sure.
It's more about, is this a just a one-off thing that one person wants, or is
Sure.
this a a generic capability that a lot of people would find very useful? My guess is probably the latter.
Yeah, because I
But
can.
then you've got to think about, well, because then we've got to think about how do we make it so that that's easy to use. So if everybody's uploading their own documents and we're having to do some magic behind the scenes, that's fine. But if you have to go into an editor and do something funky, that's not going to work so well. So we need to think that one through. It's an interesting idea though. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and that's sort of the kind of like the idea I was thinking of in the whiteboard almost of,
Yeah.
like I said, I have no idea how this would even work if it's even possible of almost generating a worksheet of some kind, basically being like, we're working on major scales. And I just need a simple worksheet for the students to maybe fill in some missing notes or, draw the scales on the staff or of that nature. Those kinds of things are still more in the theoretical and as we said, it's still at the very early days of this stuff. So, is
On that last question, about having access to their assignment notes after the lessons are over. So teachers will have access to the lesson notes at all times.
yeah,
Students, as you remember, don't see any of the notes unless you
right,
copy them from, you could,
sure.
copy note data and put it into an assignment.
But yeah, they were intended to sort of be two separate things. So assignments, students do see; notes, students don't see. So yeah, to clarify that. And then so Susan's sort of saying the same thing is that if you have like a document that you use that's like a preloaded sort of a templated thing for the assignments, this is the book page.
It's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I wonder that's also an interesting because I bet everybody's template's different. So there's sort of two ways you would either need like a builder where you go in and you build the template yourself in Muzie somewhere, and then you can just reuse that template over and over again. Or you do have some way of sort of scanning a PDF or a document and then sort of finding those areas that need filling in manually or automatically.
Yeah. Well, think about that one. That might be an interesting thing to.
I had a feeling worksheets of that nature would be something that would be a popular idea. It's definitely more tricky though. So, so what Natalie's suggesting there is actually alluding almost to our other project that we'll come back to eventually, which is the marketplace stuff, which we can mention real quick. We've talked about it before. Is the idea that we are thinking about a way of actually doing exactly that, having some way of teachers being able to submit or either a collaborative place where everyone can sort of pull resources from each other, or maybe a place to sell resources they create, or courses or content. That one's still kind of up in the air on how that would work. For now, though, if you do have a cool template, feel free to share it in the Facebook group. I'm sure people would love access to it if it's something you don't mind sharing. Have an assignment prompt for the student to practice on a specific day. I don't know that. I don't know if an AI could do anything like that in the sense of like it, because the AI could tell you like, hey, it's Tuesday, do this. Hey, on Wednesday, do this. Hey, on Thursday, do this. But there would be no real other way besides like mechanically adding notifications or something to then notify someone to do that stuff on that day. If that's what
is that that's an interesting one. So is that so just so I understand, is that the intent? So if I say create a 3-day practice routine, and let's say for the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of the following week, just as an example. On the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, that student gets a ping over SMS or I don't know, whatever, to say, hey, ping, 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 you need to
No, that's something we could probably do. That's probably something less AI and actually just something that you could put in the assignment form itself. So on the assignment form, you could probably put a 7 days of the week, and you just check off which days you want the student to practice it, or how many days of a week you want the student to practice it. Maybe not specifically the day, because people's schedules are too random for that. But maybe you say like, I want them to practice this 3 days this week, and you set like a 3-day goal for them, and something like that.
Yeah. I mean, the template thing, I think, is getting quite a bit of traction here. I think we're going to have to think about this one, because I think it's probably quite a good idea, and how we best do that would be interesting. But whatever we come up with, I like the idea of shared templates, though. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, could anyone who has a template of that nature, would you be willing to email it to me, just
to get an idea? Yeah.
Literally what it is,
like. Yeah.
kind of get a better idea of the visual understanding, because that would give us a better understanding of sort of where we can sort of apply the AI and whatnot. But yeah, this is exactly what we're talking about. These are the kinds of things, and as everyone knows, use the Facebook group, use the chat supports and all that kind of stuff. But especially the Facebook group, if you want to sort of maybe we'll create like a little AI post in there to kind of throw these ideas around. But yeah, anytime you're like, man, I wish it could do whatever comes next, tell us. That's sort of the whole point. So yeah. Any other questions or anything as we just sort of start to wrap up? But basically the sort of gist of what we've done, sort of bring it all together, is the AI has sort of 4 main functions. There's text to speech, or sorry, speech to text. You talk, it translates. Then it's taking that text and turning it into an actionable assignment. Then there's taking an old assignment and upscaling it or changing it or adapting it to some new material. And then there's the lesson notes. And so those are sort of the 4 use cases. Now, this page is not done, so don't mind the not fantastic design. But muzie.live/AI tools is a quick summary of what everything does, basically. Like I said, we'll actually probably put this video on that page so people have a way of sort of seeing what everything's doing. But if you want to better, sort of read something about the AI, and that's sort of where I'll be making those updates as well. But yeah, if no other questions or anything, is thank you everyone for attending, and hope everyone enjoyed finally meeting the brains behind the operation. It's sort of been the ghost in the machine for the last couple of years. So
there you go. Boo.
Share the world. Awesome. All right. Well, like I said, jump in the Facebook group, share the ideas around, and then we've got tons of stuff to be working on. So we'll just keep pinging everybody with new things and new updates as we go forward. So awesome. All right. Well, we'll see you all soon.
Well, nice to meet everybody, and until next time. Thank you.
Goodbye.